Hey y'all, welcome back to Fuckery 101. I'm Lori Eberly, founder of Radius and co-author of Fuckery. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to read through 3 different kinds of fuckery, and we're going to walk you through how you can identify whether or not this is a habit that you have that damages trust. All right, reaching into the fuckery deck today, let's get right to it. We are going to be talking about playing the martyr, exaggerating, channel diplomacy. All right, we're starting with something very common and moving our way up to one that is not familiar to a lot of people. Playing the martyr. You saw that when I read that out loud, that there was a nonverbal sigh or and that is because I'm pretty sure all of us know what it's like to be in the presence of a martyr, where they're dying for the cause and no one else works as hard as them. And do you know how long it took them to get this project done and the sacrifices that were made? Okay. Forms of fuckery are often easier to see in other people and way harder to recognize in ourselves. Okay, so playing in the martyr lives near playing the victim is not something that we would feel proud of. It is a habit that's going to show up because it's a way that we feel important. It's a way that we feel valued, that we feel valid. And if other folks are not giving us the gold stars that we need, if other folks do not recognize all of our efforts and achievements, then we will make sure that everybody else knows about it by talking about ourselves and how much we've endured to do what we've done. I'm not going to say anything else about that. I just want you to be real with yourself and consider what would cause you to step into that role. And if you're like, no, I never do that next, awesome. If any part of you is like, is that me? Is it possible? Then that's going to be something you want to pay attention to, because nobody wants to work with a martyr. Nobody wants to work for a martyr. Martyrs might get results, but they're going to have a non-stop loop about everything they had to do to get there. And these people are terrible team players. Don't be a martyr. Exaggerating. Okay. This is a pretty easy one to figure out, so I'm not going to patronize you, which would be another form of fuckery, and pretend you don't know what exaggerating is. How does it show up at work, though? Exaggerating, at its worst case scenario, is lying, right? It's about being dishonest. There are times that we might speak in hyperbole or extrapolate or, make something bigger than it is or less significant than it is. But I think if you want to build trust, if you want to be credible, then your word is your brand. Let people know that what you say is the truth. And that if what you say changes or is much different than what you said it would be, then acknowledge that up front. If you exaggerate because it's just sort of how you tell a good story, because you grew up in a family where people told big whoppers and it's just kind of your way, maybe you use it as a sense of humor, as a way to relate to other people, right? Like it might actually be how you're comfortable socializing, or maybe you have anxiety and the way that it plays out is that you tend to exaggerate. Whatever the reasons, just get clear that too much exaggeration is going to damage your word and it's going to damage your reputation and people aren't going to believe you. And a leader who's not believed is going to have a hard time being an effective leader. All right, and we'll save channel diplomacy here for the last. My co-author, John Sable, is the one that introduced me to this term, and he writes about it in the book because if channel diplomacy, it's either on his fuckery map or it made the final list. Channel diplomacy is a very high-level degree of talking to each stakeholder in the language that they prefer, so that you can get them to buy into your decision or into your action, whether or not it's really going to benefit them. So we know what a diplomat is, right? Someone who's able to say the right thing, someone who's able to mediate, someone who's willing to help with conflict, that in really tense times they're able to help to forge agreement or a compromise or a path forward. So to be a diplomat is a pretty effective leadership skill, right? Like, fuckery, you need to remember, is not inherently bad. It is about how frequently it shows up and why it shows up. If you are being a diplomat in order to achieve the greater good for the business, for the customer, for all stakeholders, that is not practicing fuckery. Channel diplomacy, though, alludes to those back channel agreements, right? Like where you are being a smooth talker, probably lives in some shade and a little bit of darkness. There's going to be a lot of omitting the truth. You may not flat out tell a lie, but this is definitely includes an element of telling people what they want to hear so that they will come to their side. And you're going to get away with this if you're really good at it for a little while, but there will be a cost. And that cost will be that you are not really trustworthy, that your ability to execute and get results is driven by your ego and not by the greater good of the business. And certainly not with the cooperation and the experience and the creativity and the shared ideas of your team. It's much more about your own needs and not about the collective needs. Thanks for showing up. As per usual, I want you to write each of these things down. It's funny how quickly I forget them because I'm so present, right? Playing the Martyr, Exaggerating, and Channel Diplomacy. I want you to look yourself in that mirror. Ask yourself, do I do this? Never, sometimes or always. If it's sometimes or always, you need to dig into it a little bit more. And if you say never, I want you to make sure of that. All right, come back for more. See the link below, RadiusECD.com, if you got questions or comments. Bye-bye.